Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. This is where accounting professionals just like you come to learn the most efficient and powerful ways to grow their firm, sharpen their sales skills, and have consistent increasing revenue. We cover topics from sales, networking, handling objections, negotiation, pricing, finding those ideal clients, and how to get rid of the ones that just don't suit you and how to set those boundaries so you can stop giving away your time, working for free, putting yourself on sale, and really start to get paid for the value and the worth that you bring to your clients. You'll learn tips, strategies, as well as hear others from personal interviews from successful accounting professionals. This podcast will show you exactly how to create the firm and life of your dreams full of abundance. Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. Our special guest is also a client here at the Abundant Accountant. He is an IRS enrolled agent. He's also a best-selling author and also a public speaker. And he's also the founder of a small business startup foundation program. He loves to empower, elevate, and enrich the lives of heart-centered women as his clients and also a few good men. And he also helps speakers, coaches, and small business owners fulfill their purpose of living their true authentic self while making a whole lot of money, honey, and paying just a fraction in taxes legally. But before we welcome our special guest to the show, if you feel underpaid and overworked in your firm, make sure to keep listening. No matter what is happening in your firm right now, it's 100% possible for you to work with fewer clients, work fewer hours, and still get paid more money. I know that all around you, firm owners work long hours. They have lots of clients and are probably scratching their heads wondering why they're working 14 plus hours a day, yet having little or nothing in their bank accounts to show for it. But that is not how we do things here at the Abundant Accountant. We show you how to create the firm you've always wanted, bring in the revenue you've always desired, and really only serve the clients you choose that you want and who also make you happy. So you don't have to do the things that you're not passionate about. So if you're ready to start making these changes to create your firm you've always dreamt of, then book a call with myself and my team right now at theabundantcall.com. Once again, that's theabundantcall.com. And now let's welcome our special guest, Jonathan Bengel, to the show. Welcome, Jonathan, to the show.
Hello, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being here with us on the Abundant Accountant Podcast. It's an honor to have you here, and today's a very special episode. So for you guys listening, Jonathan was a client. He has been in the Abundant Accountant family for quite a few years, completed the 8-week sales mastery training, and is definitely a case study worth sharing. So I'm honored for you to be here and to share your story with other firm owners, Jonathan, that, you know, might have had a really stressful tax season, saying to themselves, I can't do it again. I can't have another year like I just had. I'm totally burning the candle at both ends. I feel exhausted. I feel burnt out. I'm never seeing my family. I keep postponing vacations. I never feel like I can get ahead, and on and on and on. And I'm sure you can relate to that or some of it.
Yes.
So,
yes, I certainly can.
But before we dive in, if you can just share a little bit about where you're at and when you started your firm, Jonathan, and where your firm's at today.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the guests that may not know who I am, I'm Jonathan Bengel, and I'm an IRS enrolled agent. But the title that I actually go around that was given to me in 2020 by Universe is I'm a business profit tax coach and teacher extraordinaire. Mm-hmm. I'm also, as I said earlier, an IRS enrolled agent. I'm a #1 best-selling author, both nationally and international, for a book that I wrote called The ABCs of Deductions, an Entrepreneur's Guide to Tax Write-Offs. And I'm also the host of my own show, Naked Tax Talk, on YouTube. And, of course, I am the founder of an online masterclass called Small Business Financial Happiness Blueprint, where I help to elevate, enrich, and guide the lives of heart-centered women, entrepreneurs, and a few good men, speakers, coaches, and the like, transforming their lives to financial happiness.
Wonderful. So, and I know, Jonathan, that none of that existed when you and I first met. So Why don't you
No.
share what the Jonathan Bengel was back when we crossed paths, when things weren't so glory,
Clear and
etc.
polished.
Can you share what that was like and the fees you were charging back then and how you felt before
Yeah,
joining the Abundant
absolutely.
Accountant? So how did you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it's interesting that you point that out because it's true. Because now this new opening, right? It's who I am. It's what I embrace
Right.
now. And you're absolutely right. Before I met you, Michelle, I remember I didn't really have a sense of what my worth was or my value.
Mm.
And I had made a fatal error in my life, and that was that I assumed that my identity of a business owner was the same as my identity as a person. And as a result, I allowed my own trauma, my own triggers, my own subconscious thinking to impact the way in which I dealt with a potential client. And so if the client if they gave me what I call a triple S. Everyone has a triple S, a sad, sappy story, including myself. It's the truth. And the moment they gave me their triple S, I, of course, went in with them because I'm triggered by things like poverty. I don't have the money. I made mistakes. I don't know what I don't know. Paying too much in taxes. I can't pay this. I can't pay that. And so that trauma of my own background would flow into and get sucked into their drama.
Yep.
And then I would find myself saying things like, all right, you know what, don't worry about it. I can give you a discount, or
Yep.
I'll do it for less, etc. And before I met you, Michelle, I on my own. I was making about 100,000 a year, but I was working a lot of freaking hours, and I was doing the
How many
classic.
hours were you working back then? Do you remember?
Oh my gosh! I mean, I was working every single day, a minimum of 8 hours a day. But then during tax season, and this is what really got me going. During tax season, I would start, as we all know, I would start about mid-January all the way through April 15th, from 9 to 9, Monday through Monday, and had no life.
Yeah.
And fighting with clients, what I call them price shoppers, that just kind of want to come in and they're just like, can you prepare me? I have a 1040 and I got a Schedule E and a Schedule C, and I think I have a K1, but I'm not sure. And oh, by the way, I only want to pay you $100.
Right. What were your
Right.
discounts at back then? So I know you did 100 grand. You were working a lot, 8 hours a day, not during tax season, Monday through Monday, during tax season, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. But how much were you discounting because you let, your
Mm,
past traumas and your feelings of
yeah.
like, yeah, they don't have a lot of money or whatever it was. Do you remember how much you were discounting at that time?
Not really, but I'll give you a reference. So today, my minimum fee to work with me on an annual basis is $30,000, and in November alone last year, I made $160,000 in 4 hours. So back then, I would charge that same price, $200 a month
Yeah.
for the same outcome. So that just gives you a perspective of how far I've come.
Yeah, you've definitely come a long way. So, what do you feel was some of the biggest changes that you made in your firm from learning what you learned at the Abundant Accountant, specifically going through the 8 week sales mastery course
Yeah.
that made an impact in making a lot of changes that we're going to talk a little bit more about in your firm? But maybe you can share with others that are giving discounts, that are saying, I feel bad. You're people pleasers. You want to help everyone. You feel
Yes.
bad. They owe all these taxes and you're bending over backwards like Gumby, that little green toy. I loved that thing when I was younger.
Yes.
And you're just like, I just can't do it anymore.
You know what I figured out is that back then I didn't understand that subconsciously I wanted to be loved and liked at all costs by
Mm-hmm.
everybody. And so for me to say no felt like I was ashamed. To say no felt like I was somehow hurting somebody. To not value myself was something like, that's okay. It's kind of like what I was conditioned to do. We're conditioned to, bow our heads and, listen to authority. And if someone perceives to have more authority over you, then it's almost like we hand that over. And it comes from the subconscious mind that the need to be loved and liked, and it comes from the realization that we all want to be validated. And for a lot of us, it's validation that starts as early as our childhood, right? It's the validation of mom or dad, or moms and dads, or someone just validating our worth, right? So we're always seeking that out. And when our parents don't validate us, then ultimately we turn to others to validate us. And again, when we start our own businesses, we bring that into the business, because I like to teach this in my class. I like to say our companies are like our babies. And I happen to be a father of three, to be specific. I have three different companies now. And so we end up bringing that into the child, just like our parents do to us. They bring their trauma and give us their
Yep.
trauma, and then right. So I think for me, the biggest moment is the realization that I was doing out of everything because I needed to be loved and I needed to be liked.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a huge thing. And what you did very differently, and by the way, like you said earlier, I wish I would have known you earlier, right, as an example. But the truth of the matter is that my money trauma was really, really, really thick. And Lord knows I've been traumatized money-wise many, many times over in my life. And you really helped me to kind of like see the value in what I was about to accomplish. And I took a leap of faith. And that's what it takes, doesn't it? It takes a leap of faith
Yep.
into something that is unknown so that we can accomplish the goals that we want to accomplish. And I ask this question now all the time. When is the last time that you failed? And the truth of the matter is, none of us have ever failed, because every single decision we have ever made in our lives was meant to be so that we are here in this moment, right here, right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
So
when you
with
took that leap of faith, what were you
yeah,
nervous about before considering investing in the 8-week sales mastery training back then?
well,
Considering
back
that you
then,
had all the money trauma and it was really
uh,
thick, and, you know, like back
yeah, for
then when you
me,
were making that consideration, because, what were you really nervous about? What was that fear inside?
yeah, the fear, okay, there was a lot of fears, actually. One of the biggest fears was, will I make my money back? And as
Mm-hmm.
accountants, that's who we are, right? We're very analytical thinkers. We're always thinking, well, what's my return on my investment? And sometimes, like in what you teach, and several coaches I have since hired as a result, have all basically taught me is that the results are not always immediate. Some are, but not always. In tax planning, literally overnight, the results happen. But when it comes to the like what you taught me, which was to stand in my power, to have my red rope policy, to set my boundaries, to set up systems, to set up checks and balances, to really rehearse the types of things. And more importantly, it took me a lot of time to really do what you were teaching us, which is to calm the mind. I say now, calm the mind, to slow us down and to listen to what the client is telling us. And someone like me who's very loquacious, a talkative person who loves to speak, it's hard to shut up
Yep.
sometimes. And and yet in the sales process, being quiet is probably the gold.
It
And you
is.
were really trying to stress that to me, because I'm very loquacious. And so, that was one of the things, was like, just calm down, listen to what they have to say. And you're so right, Michelle. Over time, I picked up on all the common fears, all the common pain points. And I remember when you were teaching us and you were going through this whole process of figuring out what it is that they suffer from. And I'm like, I don't know. But as time went on, I started listening. And sure enough, the sad, sappy stories started becoming the same.
Yep.
I did it myself. I am afraid, blah, 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 blah. And what you're teaching us, and what I later learned, is to say to a client, and this is how I make my money now. I look to a client and I say, I'm simply looking at myself in the mirror. And just like you, I've done the same thing. And it's really helped me to close a lot of my sales, to be
Yep.
honest with you. But one thing that you really did, oh, by the way, one of my fears
Yep.
was, if I raise my prices, number one, will the clients go away?
Yep.
And the truth is yes, the majority of them went away. But girlfriend, let me tell you, as of 2023, for the 2022 tax season, I mean, I only processed, I think, less than 50 tax returns. But yet, on an annual basis, I just said $250,000 I've made by maintaining my clients on an annual basis, by providing them extra value other
Yep.
than preparing a tax return or picking up the phone and asking me a question. And
But
thanks to
over the
you,
last few years, though, Jonathan, they went away because you wanted them to go away. And when we
Yes.
we up level, we also will attract a higher level of clientele. So for people that say,
Yes.
I want higher quality clients, well, you have to change yourself first. And what you did is you
Yes.
took the leap of faith. You set aside the fears, even though you were completely nervous, like, am I going to make my money back? And,
Yes.
if I raise my prices, will all my clients go away? What was the thing that, really had you get past that point to make the investment in yourself and enroll in the 8-week sales mastery program, even though those fears were, right there in front of you? And I know you're very glad you did it, but when you're in
Yeah.
that moment, and for those that are listening, that's probably the biggest ones we hear, yeah, it's a hefty investment, or yeah, the way I teach, there will be that, well, you want to make a change. You're here because
Yeah.
you have a problem. What was it for you that got you over the hurdle?
Well, first of all, it was your persistence. Let's be real, girlfriend. It was your persistence, which, by the way, it's an actual sales technique, isn't it? It's the constant following up with the person. And you and I, we would talk back and forth because we were part of a mutual organization. And so, we would chit chat and things like that. And you knew that I needed it. You saw something in me that you knew I needed. And I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
necessarily see it. Does that make sense?
100%. And I see that in every person that I get on the phone with. But there's
Yes.
a smaller percentage that will actually go over the other edge. There's some people, if I'm on the phone, if you and I were on the phone and you didn't go and set your fears aside and take that leap of faith, I can't do that for you. I can only bring you close, but ultimately you have to make that decision to make a change. So there was
Yes.
something inside you that said, okay, here's someone that sees something greater than me that I don't see.
Yes.
But what
Yes.
was it
And
inside of you that said, you know what? Okay, whatever. I'm going to do this. I'm terrified. I pray I get my money back and have a
yes.
return on my investment. And I hope I don't lose all my clients, because at the time you only had 100 grand and you were working 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. during the tax season and 8 hours a day. Not in the tax
Oh,
season.
yeah.
You were working like a dog and never saw the fruits of your labor. So it was like you could keep
Yes.
going down that path, or I'm saying, I see something better for you. I know I can help you. I'm 1,000% certain. I gave you the certainty that I could, but you have
Yes.
to make that decision. So, what was it for you that maybe could support someone else listening that might also have that exact same fear? They just
Yeah.
went through another brutal tax season and don't want to do
Yeah.
it again, and feeling
No.
completely burnt out and like, hey, I might just want to go get a job. Or for those that are still in a job listening, you're like, nah, I don't think having a firm is my thing.
Well, for me, I think it comes back to having faith.
Hmm.
And I've always been that type of person also that is willing to take a risk.
Okay.
And as we both know, with risk comes great rewards.
Yep.
And it was just a leap of faith. It really was. It was kind of like taking a leap. Your personality is the type of personality that I also felt like I could trust. Like, you remind me of the kind of teacher that was like very stern and very
Yep.
like, we got business to do, girlfriend. Like, we got to move. And those teachers always kind of like, I had a lot of faith in them because they had a very rigid sense of like, we got to do this and I've got you. And that's really, I think, what helped me also to build up that faith to say, okay, let's just go do it. And at the end of the day, from a tax perspective, hello, we're all tax professionals. At the end of the day, I understood that if this went south anyways, which it did not, but if it did go south, that I'd still have a tax deduction, and at least I would still be supplemented
Right.
via the tax reduction in profit. So that was a little bit of that. But mainly it was about the faith and just saying, yes,
Hmm.
okay, you know what? Let's do it. And I had no idea what to expect other than I walked out. What I walked out of your program was an actual physical document that was actual tangible. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And thanks to you, I was able to develop my ideal client.
Yep.
In fact, her name is Tiffany Diamonds. That's her name. And I know who she is and I know what she's all about. And as a result, and as you heard earlier when I introduced myself, I was able to clearly define who it is that I work with.
Yeah.
And that came by working with you.
Mm.
The other thing you taught me was to set up those boundaries, that not everyone needs to come up in here into my business,
Yep.
that, they have to earn that right. And
Yes, they
it's
do.
funny, they have to earn that right because we're so often seen as like a tissue, strong, durable,
Yeah,
yet disposable, right?
totally. I love
And at
that
the end of the day,
analogy. I mean, I think
right?
most firm owners, that's what you typically struggle with. And not only are you a tissue, but it goes in the trash like one after the next. And it's yet like you're
Yes,
the most important person that anyone could have in their corner, be it an individual taxpayer or a business taxpayer. You should be
exactly.
as important as an ER surgeon saving someone's life because that's what you do on a financial
Yes.
side.
Yes. And as I like to say now, I'm not in the business to have one night stands. That's what I call someone who wants to come in here and get their taxes done and walk out the door. Girlfriend, don't play like that no more. You got to take me out, dine me, wine me, or better yet, you better put a ring on it and create a long term, year after year relationship with me. And that's what I do by offering my
And those are the
packages to my
clients
clients.
that are paying 30,000 a year for all year round
That's right.
services with you, correct?
And
Okay.
I only work with less than 15 of those a year.
Great. And what was the revenue for you last year? So you started at 100 grand before we met. Um,
Mhm.
I don't remember exactly after the 2 or 3 months you were working with me where your revenue as was at, but if you want to share
I
that.
I went up a little bit. Yeah, it went up a little bit because I was still very nervous about increasing my prices. I still was. And then in 2020, so the pandemic came around and gave us all a gift called online interaction. And it really also propelled me into the space of being an expert in what I do. And I think for all of us, part of it comes down to being the expert in what we do and demonstrating that. It comes from having a platform. Hello, YouTube, Instagram. You can follow me, all that places. So it was all about that as well as accumulation of all of those things I was working on. But in 2020, I decided to listen in and tune into what you were saying. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and go for the gut and go for the punch and really lay down my value and my worth. And where I got it from a tax perspective, my value is through the realization that every time I open my mouth, and this goes to the credit for Dominique, another woman that we both know,
Yeah.
who I really quickly realized that every time I open my mouth and I say, well, where's your mileage log? Or where's this? Or where's that? I am literally putting money in their pockets.
Hmm.
And what I learned, and now what I say, and you may use this as well, is I have learned how to speak the art of vagueness when dealing with a sales conversation with the client.
Well, and it
Right?
is, yeah, you want to share enough information to have the client intrigued, but you can't give them all of the goods until you're paid. So it's a way
Absolutely.
to articulate, if you call it the art of vagueness, or you can just give them the high level without, if I would have told you exactly how to do everything, why would you need to hire me? You would try to try it and then you'd fail multiple times attempting it. And
Yeah.
it's not any different than having a book on your shelf and saying, okay, I'm going to implement all these things. Or most of the time you'll do part of it, but you might get some of it wrong because that's more just about more information, where what you're providing for your clients is more transformational results. You're helping them get
Yes.
through all of it together. And in
Yes.
order to do that, like you did, you've gotten good at the art of vagueness. So that's great, but you're not giving away everything for free, because if you
No.
say, "Hey, where's your mileage log?" and you give them all these pertinent things they need to provide you, now they're going, "Oh, what did I not do that for?" Or, now they're getting
Hmm.
to some answers without you being paid. But
Yes. And I
anyway,
think
let's
that's the
go.
big shift.
It is a huge shift. It's a massive one, and you increased your prices. So I'm happy to hear that. Jonathan, let's talk real quick about where you're at right now. Where's your revenue at? How many hours are you working? So we can see how the full circle came, or I should say 180,
Yeah.
where we are on the other
Yeah,
side of the
absolutely.
rainbow.
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2022, I closed out grossing 200, a quarter of $1 million. Interestingly enough, actually, I had a net profit loss at the end of October because of some bad decisions I had made in the business sector. And as a result, I had to let go of my employees. I had to shrink. I had to downsize. But when that happened to me, what it did is it allowed me to really reevaluate what I was doing. And more importantly, it was the realization that the wish that I had made, which is to only work with a very select few clients at a high-end level, because my time is only limited, right? So it really solidified that for me. And then in November, like I said, I closed 4 deals, made 160 grand in 4 hours after having 4 sales calls. And boom, bada bang, I had a negative loss, and then I had what we call a profit problem on the books. And then as a result of that, I was able to now then think about more about what I wanted to do. So now I have a team that's based in different areas of the country now, thanks again to being everything online. I'm relaunching my book again, the ABCs. I'm focusing now on a live masterclass, and my goal there is to enrich, elevate, and guide the clients, my students, through the foundation of business ownership, from the profit mindset to how to separate themselves, to picking the right entity, to taking advantage of tax deductions, and ultimately how to protect themselves in the event of an audit. Because something that I've learned is that it's about being proactive and not reactionary.
Yep.
And most people come to us in a reactionary state. And when they come to us in that reactionary state, that is their emergency. And again, because of our own lack of understanding our own boundaries,
not your emergency.
we'll get pulled into it. Yes. So like this year alone, I've had at least 15, 20 inquiries. I got to get my taxes done. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, girl, go file an extension, come back after April 20th, and we'll deal with you then. And part of that is also realizing that I am standing up for myself.
Correct. Which
right?
you never
it's
used
about
to
Jonathan
do.
loving Jonathan.
Yeah.
Yes. And then that allows me to love you and others out there.
Love it. Totally love it.
Oh, and hours I'm working?
Yeah.
So actual work that like I'm doing accounting and tax work because I'm in the midst of a shift right now. But even then, I'm putting in maybe 2-3 hours a day doing that actual work. And then the rest of the time that I have is developing, like I said, the course and speaking and social media and, the stuff that I actually love to do, which I didn't think I would in the beginning of being a firm owner, basically. But it turns out I love marketing. I love advertising. I love speaking. And that's really where I get to focus now most of my attention on.
Love it. Thank you for sharing. And being a part of the Abundant Accountant family, Jonathan, how does that make you feel?
I am so grateful. I am forever grateful that I was introduced to you and that we ran into each other. And the truth of the matter is this is what I say to others. And again, I share this with you. You may share it too. When people come up to me and they say, "Oh, Jonathan, I've been meaning to meet you," or "Oh my God, you're so fabulous," whatever, I always say, what is the wish that you made that we would cross paths? Because I know for a fact that you, Michelle, you were brought here to bring happiness to the world. You were brought here to relieve the suffering of others. For us, the accountant who doesn't value themselves, that doesn't see their worth, that undercharges, that doesn't believe that they can charge more and still get higher end clients, that doesn't believe that if you change your prices, that you can actually have the life you've always wanted. So, Michelle, you were sent here for that reason.
Yes, I was.
Yes, you were. And I subsequently was brought to you to help me to fulfill my dreams, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
So I am forever grateful to be part of the Abundant Accountant community. I'm forever grateful, as in the drag community would say, I'm so forever grateful to have met my mother, Michelle, because, you really did transform my life. Aww. And for those listeners out there, for you, the accountant that's sitting there going, "Oh man, I don't know if I really want to do this," I am telling you right now, Michelle, and I have spent over $200,000 on different coaches. Michelle is by far the best investment I have ever made. Wow. And I will take that to the grave with me.
Well, thank you, Jonathan, for sharing that. That means a lot. And I'm just so proud of where you've come and that you put your trust in me and my team and you did the work and that you're on this journey now, because the other Jonathan, that one,
Oh
the
boy,
previous
he
one.
was so lost, and he was a little boy.
Negative
What I mean?
Nancy.
Oh gosh. Oh yeah. Now I have positive Patty. Now that's
Yeah,
my other
positive
arm.
Patty. I love positive Patty because Jonathan was negative Nancy before, and I'm just so proud of where you've come and the courage that it took you to make those decisions. I couldn't do it for you, but I'm glad you made that choice too. And it's an honor to know that, you've invested so much in yourself and that this is still the most valuable thing you've done. So,
I want to make this point even more clear because what you're talking about is so true. You can only lead us to the water, and
yes,
then we have a decision to make, right?
correct.
And it's funny because this happens in our tax lives too. I had a client I met in 2019. She wanted to work with me. She didn't have the time. She was moving. She had a lot of moving parts in her business, blah, 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 blah. 2 years later, she calls me. She has a $175,000 tax problem. The IRS is going to come take her money. And before you know it, she's now hiring me to represent her. And we got it down to $110,000. That is still a win, $65,000 in savings, right?
Yep.
She paid me $20,000 to make that happen.
Yep.
But you know what? That's still a win. And the truth of the matter is if she would have said yes to my master class in 2019, all of those problems would have been avoided because she was your classic, let me do it myself, let me figure it out, and stumble along the way. So it cost her more money on a missed opportunity than had she had just had the faith to take the risk to say yes.
And I see that in so many, I would say every client I've ever worked with, including you, I always hear, I wish I would have done it sooner. There's always a cost to waiting. But ultimately, like you said, I can bring you to the water, but you have to take the sip.
Yes.
So thank you, Jonathan, so much for sharing your story, being here, being a part of the Abundant Accountant family, and inspiring another accounting firm owner to make a change, to take that leap, because they can you can have a better life. You can enjoy your firm. You can be excited to go to work every single day and not dread it.
Yes.
And I know it's
You can
possible.
finally live the dream you've always wanted. You can finally, you help me. And this is what I teach my clients now, right? You can live the life that you've always dreamt about having. Yes. I mean, now I'm so bougie. That's my new word. I'm bougie now. So, I go on my marketers cruise once a year, which girlfriend, you got to come join me. So, we do this marketers cruise once a year. I'm going on an after tax cruise, meaning I paid out of my own money for a cruise coming up in another month. I'm doing all the things that I really wanted to do. I finally have gotten to the space of, oh, it cost how much? That doesn't bother me. It doesn't faze me. Not a problem. I got the money. Here you go.
And it's possible for each firm owner to do that. It is possible. You don't have to go,
it is absolutely
Michelle,
possible.
I have to check my budget, or I have to budget for this. Like, if you're having a budget conversation, you have financial challenges.
Ooh, I like that. I like that comment. That's a good one.
Yeah. So thank you again, Jonathan, for being here. It was an honor to have you, and looking forward to seeing what happens in the next 12 to 24 months for you.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to continuing to have our relationship, and I'm continuing to offer support in however I can in your community, because the truth of the matter is that, like I said earlier, you have a mission, and your mission is to take us that are living in the darkness of ignorance and shining the light to what is financially possible.
Yep. Well, thank you again. It was an honor to have you.
Thank you, Michelle.
What an amazing episode with Jonathan. And for each of you who are listening, every single one of your clients is going to come to you with some sort of version of a sad, sappy story, his 3 S's. And this is when you cave in. We give a discount. We do something for free. We say, okay, I'll do the work now and I'll invoice them later. And then you don't even remember to invoice them. And now you've just put them back into the donation bank. And what I want you to remember is that every single client is going to come with you with their sad, sappy story or some variation of it. And I believe it's totally fine to listen to it, but it's not okay to give into it. Your job as a firm owner is to help solve these problems for your clients. They're coming to you with a problem and they get to pay to fix it. Just like Jonathan shared with his one client, it cost her $20,000 and $160,000 in IRS fees, or $110,000. I can't really remember the exact number. But if she would have let Jonathan work with her from the beginning, she wouldn't have any of those issues. The do-it-yourself crowd, the, hey, I can't afford you now, I'm going to try it on my own, they're going to come to you with a 3S story. It's guaranteed. But it's not your job to give into it. It's not your obligation to give them a discount. You don't have to. It's time to stand up for who you are and what you're worth. And I know that each of you can. It's just we have to change our money mindset. So if you're having a challenge with your money mindset, or you're feeling overworked or ran over by your clients, then make sure to head on over to theabundantcall.com and book your call with us. If you're ready to make this change and start creating the firm you've dreamt of, just like Jonathan has, book that call with myself and my team. The URL is theabundantcall.com. We look forward to connecting with some of you. You must have owned a firm for at least a year. If you're in a job and have a firm on the side, you must be committed to quitting your job. So if that's you, head on over to theabundantcall.com and we look forward to speaking to you. Have a beautiful day.